All right, today on Tax Tip Tuesday, we're joined by tax expert John Saylor from Total Tax Solutions to break down the biggest audit myths. And we're going to explore what truly now triggers an IRS audit, how uncommon these really are, and what to do if you're selected for an audit. John, welcome back to the news desk this morning.
Hey, good morning, Jay. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Well, John, one of the biggest fears in the English language is IRS audit. All right. I mean, you put those two words together and it just scares the bejesus out of people. So, what are the most common myths that you hear about IRS audits?
A lot of people, Jay, are scared. They want to do the right thing so that they don't get an IRS audit. They want to, they're all worried about filing their taxes, getting an IRS audit. You know,
Yep.
the people that need to be worried about IRS audits are the ones that are lying, cheating, and stealing on their tax returns because an IRS audit is not always a bad thing because of the fact that they're going to go through an IRS agent is going to go through your tax return completely with you and show you, ask you questions about your income, your deductions, your expenses, all those different things. And they're actually going to teach you a little bit about what you need to do, what deductions you're missing, what income is classified here, classified there, and stuff like that. If you should be an employee or if you should be an independent contractor. I mean, there's a lot of helpful hints in an audit that people just don't realize that it's not always a bad thing. It's a bad thing if you're lying, cheating, and stealing. It's
Hmm.
also a bad thing if you don't know what's going into your tax return, if you're just having someone do it and they're not explaining anything, if all you're doing is dropping off your tax papers and they're preparing your tax return, and then all of a sudden you go in, you sign, you pick it up, pay, and everything, you walk away, and nothing's ever explained to you. I will tell you though, that's when audits get scary, is because it's like, well, I don't even know what's in my tax return. And that's the biggest myth, is everybody's worried about they're going to come and drag you to jail with in handcuffs and stuff you and cuff you, or cuff you and stuff you, whatever it is, and stuff. But it's actually, it can be a very
Yeah.
unpleasant surprise, but there again too, if you're not doing the right thing or you don't know what's in your tax return, it's going to be unpleasant.
Well, as a tax preparer yourself, obviously the taxpayer gets a little bit, an audit. Does a tax preparer also feel that anxiety when one of their clients gets audited?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because, the first thing that goes through my mind is, okay, what did I do wrong? What am I going to have to answer for? What did we
Yeah.
cheat on? Or what did we stretch the limit on, and everything and stuff like that. But normally when it comes down to that, it's more of just a, hey, you know what? We need to change this here, put this here. Okay. And then it's more of an education type thing for a lot of people because the news really escalates the audits, like, oh, this person's going to jail for tax fraud and this and that. A lot of people just aren't in that situation. Even if they don't file for a number of years, it's not like they're in that situation. It's just get compliant with the IRS and they'll go away just like anything else.
Okay. Okay. So, is it true that claiming deductions automatically increases your chance of being audited?
No, that's the other myth, is it's like, well, if we do this, am I going to get audited? If we change this, am I going to get audited? Really, what it comes down to, it's a random selection of who gets audited, and then they get audited, and they sit down, they go through their stuff, their income, expensive deductions, and make sure it's all correct. But there are some triggers out there. There's a top 10 list of IRS triggers out there that they look for, and unfortunately, if you fall into one of those 10 categories, it could generate a audit just because of the fact that you're being flagged for one of those 10 things.
Yeah. Let's talk about them. What are some real red flags that can trigger an audit?
The biggest thing is filing your entities correctly. If it's a partnership, if it's an S corp, if it's an individual tax return, Schedule C, is making sure that those entities are filed correctly, and then also making sure that everything is matching up between your books, your profit and loss statement to your balance sheet, making sure that everything is in order and that your beginning and ending balances match at the beginning of the year. and stuff like that. So when they see different things like that, or big swings in income or expenses, those things are kind of some of the other things. The other ones are the hobbies, the hobby farming, the hobby businesses and stuff, where they continue to show a loss even after 3 out of 5 years. They continue to show a loss every year. That's kind of a big one they're focusing on with the small businesses right now. Is either they'll come in and they'll reclassify you as, instead of being a business, you're a hobby. Then you just
Mm.
report the income without expenses. So that's another key thing there is what am I doing, as far as, is it for profit or is it not? Is it a hobby? Is it not? Is it depreciable? Is it not? Depreciation is another big thing, is the classification of different types of equipment and stuff, and the depreciation portion of it.
Okay. Simple mistakes. We all make mistakes, and sometimes, especially if you're preparing your taxes yourself, and some people do, maybe a math error. Would that lead to a audit?
No, well, it it won't lead to an audit, but what it is it's called a paper audit, or maybe I just call it a paper audit, is where the IRS's matching system will see that, hey, you made this amount of money on a W-2, this amount was withheld, but you put in a different number for withholdings. The IRS will actually do a paper audit and then send you a letter and just say, hey, just so you know, we corrected your return, your refund, because of these numbers. And then if you look, it's like, makes sense, okay, and you just move on. So it's not like it triggers a full-fledged audit. It's just more of the matching on the W-2s, and as far as withholdings and income and stuff.
We've heard a lot of talk over the years, particularly with this administration now in office, that they've letting go a lot of IRS agents. How rare are audits today compared to previous years?
Well, when they say they let go of IRS agents, people need to understand that the agents that they're letting go are in different departments. The audit department is actually built up more because they want to start doing more auditing and stuff since COVID. And so
Hmm.
that department, if I don't know for sure which employees are being cut and stuff like that, but it goes by departments as far as if they're collecting estimated tax return or estimated payments, if they're doing amended tax returns, if they're doing past tax returns, if they're doing current tax return. So a lot of the employees that are supposedly getting replaced are for non-essential positions that have been probably most likely converted to like a some kind of an AI technology, where the computer, instead of somebody looking at the paperwork, the AI audit assistants will actually go through and do it, so that the
Hmm.
human error is taken out of it and stuff like that. Those are the ones too that are getting replaced.
Okay. Who is most likely to get audited and who is least likely to get audited?
I heard a myth, and I don't know if this is true or not. I heard a myth, and supposedly this came from a gal that was at the that did the auditing selections or whatever and stuff out at the IRS, and she said that the audits are picked by the number of people that file their tax return by April 15th. So that's their bunch, that's their queue that they pick for the auditing. So if
Huh.
you file extensions, supposedly you're outside that queue, so you wouldn't get audited. But I don't know that I believe that, because if they're filing extensions all the time, you would think there's a reason they're filing those extensions. So I don't know if that's
Right.
true or not, but it's kind of a funny little myth that, I don't know if it's true or not, to be honest with you.
Yeah. That's kind of interesting. Okay, if someone does receive an audit notice, I'm guessing they get it through the mail because, like we talked about last time, their government's not sending out, well, maybe they are faxes. Did we say fax? They might send a fax. But what's the first thing that they should do once they receive a notice?
The first thing somebody needs to do when they receive a notice or a fax, first off, check the to make sure it's genuine, and then it's not a fraud or anything. And then the other thing is don't speak to anybody unless you talk to a tax professional, a tax accountant, a lawyer or something, because you don't want to incriminate yourself and say, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. One, wait a second, you should have done that. It's maybe you shouldn't have done something different. So the best thing to do is if you ever do get a notice is talk to your tax preparer right away and say, "Hey, I just got this letter." A lot of people don't understand that just because we prepare your tax return, if you get an audit from the IRS, we are not compelled to have to represent you in an audit. That's a total separate situation outside of your tax preparation. It's the tax preparation is just basically a compliance of filing the tax return. So anything outside of that would constitute other engagements. If we're going to protect you or if we're going to help you with the audit, what we're going to do. Most preparers are more than willing to help out and stuff like that, but are not actually required to.
Okay. Documents. Taxpayers, what do they need to keep just in case? Should they keep 3, 4, 5 years, 7, 10 years of their tax files?
If it's just a simple personal tax return with a small business and stuff, the IRS guidance is up to 3 years. So at least 3 years. I tell everybody 4 years just because you don't know which year they're counting as far as if it's the year you're filing, that's the third year, or if it's 3 years
Hmm.
outside of the year that you're filing. Um, the problem is if the IRS can prove that there's intent to defraud the IRS or government and stuff, they can go back as far as they want. So it's recommended like bigger businesses and stuff like that keeping tax returns because there's just more information there to try to find and stuff like that. But generally the typical rule of thumb is 3 or 4 years. Of course, we keep everything electronically stored in a secure portal, so some people can actually destroy all their records if they want, so nobody steals them. But find out if you've got a secure portal where all that stuff is saved electronically and stuff. But yeah, to answer your question, 3 to 4 years is usually what I tell most people.
Okay. How long does one of these processes take? Is it something we're going to sit down and me and the IRS agent are going to hash it out with my tax preparer, or is it something that's going to linger on for days?
It really depends. It really depends on how clean and accurate your books are, how clean and accurate your finance and all that stuff depends on what they want to go into. Let's like a farmer, for instance. They may want to come in and audit a farmer. Well, it all depends how clean your books are. Do you have all those cattle sales? Do you have all those veterinarian bills? Do you have all that stuff clean and accurate and accessible? Or do you have to now start going and researching, finding out where these forms are, going and getting the records and this and that and stuff like that? And that just comes down to good, clean books and then a good, clean tax return that you understand, that a tax preparer has sat down and explained to you what is in your tax return and what you're all doing there and stuff like that. So it could be simple. I've heard of some taking very, very little amount of time. They just want to see, okay, we want to see the documentation. I've heard some that take quite a while just because of the fact that they're having to track down a bunch of expenses or having
Hmm.
to track down equipment that they depreciated and either sold or disposed of or what and stuff. So it really just depends on how clean and accurate your stuff is.
Okay. As we wrap things up here, John, what's your top audit proofing tip for small business owners and gig workers?
The biggest thing is there again, just accurate books and clean, accurate books. You know, the number one thing I tell a lot of people is make sure you're not commingling your accounts. You do not want to commingle your personal with business because then it just opens the door to where now if you're getting a personal audit, they can go into the business. If you're getting a business audit, they can go into the personal. The biggest thing is keeping your personal and business separated. Separate bank accounts, separate credit cards, separate set of books and everything. Uh, Typically, people like to just kind of combine everything because then they kind of know, but that really doesn't help you in an audit. I mean, it doesn't. So my
Hmm.
number one tip is make sure everything is separate between business and personal, and that the fact that when the audit does happen or whatever, you can explain all of those transactions.
And let's tell the viewers, John, if we can, how to get a hold of Total Tax Solutions. And I believe you've got yourself a little bit of a guarantee, don't you?
Yeah, we have a Protection Plus. So we've got, Protection Plus helps with up to $1 million of audit protection. with relief and stuff like that. And it also includes up to $1 million of identity theft restoration on all of our tax returns. And then everybody that's on the tax return. So that's kind of a nice little issue. It costs you $25, to add it on your tax return. It's automatically put on there. So just so you know, it's being paid for already on your tax return. But nice little thing to help you out with if anything ever does come up.
Fantastic. And if we want to make an appointment, I bet they're running low on appointments because you're coming up on the 15th. Can you believe it already? We're about 6 weeks away, 5 weeks away.
Yeah, we're it's getting close to the end here. Hopefully, as you can see, I got bags under my eyes. But just a reminder that all S corps and partnership tax returns are due Monday the 16th, or you can file an extension until September 15th. And then if anybody wants to get a hold of us, the best thing to do is go online at totaltaxnd for North Dakota.com, schedule an appointment, or give us a call at 701-498-1829. Or you can just simply stop by the office and chat with one of the preparers quick, like, we're in appointments and stuff, but, to see what you all need for your tax returns and kind of go from there.
All right, that sounds good. John Saylor, Total Tax Solutions. Johnny, it's been fun once again this week, my friend.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. It's getting close to the end, hopefully, but there's light at the end of the tunnel, man. We are just smoking busy. It's crazy, but it's fun. I enjoy it. So looking forward to the end, though.
I'm glad you love what you do because it would be hell to have to do that kind of work that you do day in and day out if you didn't like it.
Absolutely, and you can tell I got some bags under my eyes here, but they'll go away with some Botox and some. Actually, when I could start eating right and exercising again, I think they'll go away.
Well, you can't start eating right until I've got a swag bag, a treat for you as I always do every year. So you got to do it after because I've got some fatty meats coming your way, my friend.
I love fatty meats.
All right, I'll catch you next week, John.
Sounds good. Thanks for all the time, Jay.
You bet, bye. All right, quarter past the hour. We'll take a break. We're coming right back with a look at actually local news and ND Country Fest. Luke Schaefer's next.